these presentations, which will be moderated and presented to you by myself, Pastor Elly Achok Olare. I am a pastor in Western Kenya, a place called Mumias. I do pastor alongside other elders, a church going by the name of Gospel Missions Agencies, and I also run Bible school training centers in several places in Kenya. And I want to talk to you today about the Protestant Reformation. This is a subject I want to engage your mind and your reflections upon. I want us to think together about this great event which literally shaped history and permanently altered the course and thinking within Christianity. Now, why am I doing this series, bringing them to you and thinking together with you? Why are we doing them? Basically, there is a couple of reasons, or perhaps three. Number one, it is because this year, 2017, this month of October, to be precise, when we come to the 31st of this month, we will be marking the 500th year of the Protestant Reformation. That's half a millennium, folks. Half a millennium of the existence of the Protestant movement. The second reason why I will be presenting these reflections to you is because I know for a fact that there is a tragic ignorance of the Protestant Reformation among those who call themselves Christians, and sadder still among those who would identify themselves as Protestants. It is a terrible ignorance. It is a terrible lack of information concerning this great day in the history of Christianity. Now, I would venture to say that in 7 out of 10 people, it's a random estimate, but about 7 out of 10 people that you interview, if you were to ask them, what is Protestantism? I am willing to guarantee you that their answer will hardly go beyond this idea that I'm a Protestant, somebody will say, because I am not a Roman Catholic. That is as far as people's understanding of the Protestant Reformation goes. We run Bible colleges in Kenya here, and it is my habit and my practice every time I introduce students by way of orientation into theological courses, I usually ask them a question. And the question is this: are you a Protestant? And almost all of them, because most of them come from Pentecostal, charismatic, word of faith, and other indigenous, what we call African religions. Most of them will say, we are Protestants. They will affirm that vehemently sometimes. And then the second question that we ask people is, why do you say you're a Protestant? And here faces begin to be blank, because it is a question that few have thought, if at all. What are people protesting? Because to be a Protestant indicates that you have protested or are protesting something. So what is Protestantism? There is an awful amount of ignorance regarding that question. And therefore, that's the second reason why I want us to reflect upon this great subject. The third reason, of course, is that we must then be a people who understand and learn and appreciate our heritage. Now, there is something going on in the world today. People are finding their roots. People are saying, let us go back to our roots. There's something here in Kenya that we call the African Renaissance. And many people are trying to retrace their roots and to find out where they are. I'm told this is happening in Europe, even especially among the Black American community in America. They're trying to find their roots back in Africa because they understand that there is something to be proud of about a heritage. Now listen closely. Here in Kenya, We attained independence, self-rule, in the year 1963. The month was December and the date was the 12th. 12th of December 1963, Kenya attained her independence. This was after years and decades of colonial oppression, where men, grown-up men, were not allowed to wear long trousers. Only the white colonial imperialists could wear white trousers. There was a certain amount of money that you could not carry around with you because you are a Kenyan man under a colonial administration. As a matter of fact, many careers were out of bounds for people. Many people could only aspire to be kitchen boy, a person who works in the kitchen, or what used to be called a shamba boy, that's a gardener. And so when the day came when we were liberated, or when we attained independence, it was an epochal day. It was a momentous time. It was a time that fathers, during this month, in the year December the 12th, every year we have the whole nation observing a public holiday. People are excused from work. It is an important day for us. Fathers and tutors and teachers and government authorities hold public meetings, and in their houses next to fireplaces, people are being reminded about the independence of the country. And the things are said with pride. People take pride in the fact that we are a free country after years and years of oppression. It becomes a very, very important day in the history of Kenya. The same could be said about the United States of America. The 4th of July is celebrated with pomp and color, and to a very great extent with a lot of pride in nationality, in nationhood. People say in this month, on this date, we achieved independence, we became free, we were liberated. It was a day of freedom. You'd find the same, for example, in South Africa, and many of us will be familiar with the reign of apartheid. Horrendous atrocities were committed against the black person in South Africa. They lived in slavery. They lived in domination. They lived in mistreatment and lack of access to basic necessities. So you can imagine the joy that came upon South Africa when in the year 1990, with the release of Nelson Mandela, apartheid was abolished in South Africa. That then became a very important day in the history of South Africa. Now the question for the Christian man is, we say that other than the biblical days, apart from those days in the Bible, there is no greater day in the history of Christendom than October the 31st, 1517. 500 years ago, when Martin Luther, that German reformer, nailed what was then known as the 95 Theses on the doors of the chapel at Wittenberg in Germany. These were 95 Theses which became really, by and large, the Magna Carta, the great charter of the protestation. It represented our rebellion, if you like. They represented our remonstrance, our protestation. We were protesting that which became the darkness of Roman Catholicism. This then became an important, a decisive, if you like, a watershed event, a watershed date in the history of Christianity. The question we are asking today is such an important day in our history, such an important event. How many people within Christendom, how many people that identify themselves as Protestants would today tell you of this event? How many would know what happened in this great day? That we were liberated from, by the way, 1,000 years of slavery to Roman Catholic dogma, superstition, tyranny, and domination of all manner, with all kind of corruption and debauchery of the gospel. There was a darkness on the church, and then God moved tremendously in that revival and delivered us. Should we forget this day so easily? And therefore I titled this first presentation to you, the title of this presentation, the heading of this presentation, comes to you in the form of a reflective question. I am calling all of us to reflect upon the condition of Christianity, upon this ignorance that exists in our day. And I'm saying to us, or I'm asking us the question, have we lost our birthright? Have we lost our birthright? Let's put the question differently, or let's frame it the other way. Have we despised our heritage? Ladies and gentlemen, as we mark the 500th year of the Reformation this month, some of the things we need to reflect upon are questions such as this. Number one, was the Protestant Reformation an important event, or was it one of those peripheral things of history which can't be ignored? Was it important? A corollary question, which is not really different, but really an extrapolation from the same, is this. Was the Protestant Reformation a mistake? Was it a mistake? Some amongst us have urged us to think that in fact the Protestant Reformation was a grave mistake. It shouldn't have happened. They say to us that the people of that day, Martin Luther in Germany, Ulrich Zwingli in Switzerland, John Calvin in France, and later on in Geneva, people like John Knox in Scotland, and many others across the world, the Netherlands, and so on and so forth, as the protestation proceeded and increased. Some people are saying it was simply an overreaction. If you may, the Protestant reformers identified a problem. Yes, they would grant that much, but they overreacted in their reaction to the problems of Roman Catholicism. In other words, they killed a fly with a sledgehammer. They used disproportionate reaction. We are urged to think this way today. Have we lost our birthright? Have we despised our heritage? There is such a thing today as evangelicals and Catholics together. ECT they call it, evangelicals and Catholics together. They say we are brothers and sisters. There is more that unite us, they say, than those things that divide us. We are being told to go back in fellowship with Rome. Rome, sweet home, somebody could sing. All roads are leading to Rome. Rick Warren today is championing the cause of Rome. I talk of men like Benny Hinn, who could as far as go to TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, and fundraise for the Roman Church. We will say these are those people that are lost. They've always had a false gospel. But today we are hearing evangelical leaders, John Stott, J.I. Packer, people of note, who now are actually signing documents. Actually, they have already signed documents, and they are saying that the Protestant Reformation was an overreaction. It was a mistake. Peter Masters, when talking about the new evangelicals, this movement that is now wreaking havoc within Christianity, within, in fact, evangelicalism, Peter Masters say they went or only fell short of apologizing for the Reformation, friends. They repented of the Reformation. They repented of the great move of God that ended the tyranny of darkness and heresy and brought liberty to the children of God. Was the Protestant Reformation a mistake? We have a problem, dear friends. As we think about these things, we've got to reflect very carefully. Now, ignorance is one thing, and there is a majority, a huge majority, in Pentecostalism, in charismaticism, in the Word of Faith movement, in the African religions, in the indigenous religions, which claim to be spiritual religions. That's what they call themselves. There will be an awful, awful ignorance of the Protestant Reformation. But there's a second problem, my friends. And this, in my view, is more sinister. Because to him to whom much is given, says our Lord, from him much will be expected. There are those within evangelicalism, those who would even go as far as calling themselves Reformed, who are now in fact capitulating. I've already mentioned John Stott, I've already mentioned J.I. Packer, and there are many more who lead Christian thought, who are today in fact backtracking and reneging on the Protestant Reformation. We are in a terrible day. Was the Protestant Reformation an important event? Was it so decisive? Was it just a matter of division, a schismatic movement, or was it in fact a movement that contended for the faith once and for all time delivered to the saints? If your answer is as my answer, that the Protestant Reformation was in fact the greatest movement outside of the Bible, if your answer is the same as mine, that the Protestant Reformation was the greatest move of God, the greatest revival, the greatest awakening of souls and religion outside of biblical times, then dear friends, we must begin to talk again about what precipitated the Reformation. In the second presentation, I will talk to you about what caused the Reformation. And I will be asking us to think, do we have those circumstances today? Are we seeing that corruption today? Are we seeing that falling away today from the faith once and for all time delivered to the saints? And I will be posing the question then, in the light of that, if we think the circumstances are the same, then the question will come to you. It will come to us. Do we need a reformation today? If I may borrow the words of Michael Reeves in his book, Is the Reformation Still Matters? He asked the question, is it relevant? Is it for our time? Might we plead for revival? As we look at around us and see the excesses of Pentecostalism, as we see the superstar preachers in the Word of Faith movement rolling around and deceiving millions and multitudes while they are on their way to hell, as we think about the many systems, the unbiblical systems that have perforated Christendom and permeated and mushroomed amongst us, the invitation system, the Pentecostal heresy, the Word of Faith deception, charismatic excesses, we've got to ask ourselves a question. Do we need the Reformation today? Should we pray for revival today? In the weak gospel that is being proclaimed left, right, and center, a mongrel gospel that cannot save anybody, the question is legitimate. Do we need a revival today? And might we press heaven? Might we knock the doors of heaven and say, like David in Psalms 85, will you revive us again that your people should rejoice? Are there men and women who decry the state of apostasy today? Can there be found people who will speak among themselves and say, if these things are so terrible, what might be our place? It was a question of the reformers. They were not satisfied to know the truth. They pushed their limits. They said, if it is the truth of God, then it must be proclaimed from the rooftops. It must be proclaimed to the nations. And so the publications went forth. And so the preachings went forth. And so the missionaries went forth. And these are the reflections I want us to have together as we move forward in celebrating the 500th year of the Reformation. Friends, this is a call to war. This is a call to battle. This is not just a call to self-introspection, but this is a call to challenge yourself, because the Master needs us today, reverently speaking. The Sovereign Lord needs us today, like he needed those men in the Protestant Reformation. I'll talk to you some more about this, especially in Lecture 2, what caused the Reformation. But until then, dear friends, until the harvest is in and the barns are full to the glory of the Lord our God, I remain yours, Pastor Elly Olare from Mumias, Kenya. Bye-bye for now. The Lord bless you and keep you.